Hello all, and welcome to Shatter Our Souls with No Bard. And today we are tackling the challenge mission of Dead Charge's Hydraulic Highway region. Now, yes, this is going to seem a little bit weird. This entire mission is designed to be beaten within about 35 to 40 seconds, making it incredibly short. But, given the fact that it is designed to be beaten in such a quick span of time, we got a lot of growing room to go through. And the footage that you're seeing today is only responsible for about 10% of my total attempts, most of which never even left this segment here. Now, the reality is that in multiple games, especially platformers, every time you play it, every time you pick it up, there are what I would personally consider to be checkpoints, if you will. The first checkpoint of this level is actually going to be just up above here. So, the yellow saw spawner above us here is checkpoint number 1. The first section... Oh geez, yeah, right, fireballs. The first section kind of revolves around this multi-area fire bar, if you will. You run into one, you're pretty well hooped for your attempt. Now, what you're going to be witnessing is the cleanest attempts of what I went through, and every time a little bit further than the last. Because reality is that when you're playing a game of this nature, think Super Meat Boy or Celeste, you're going to have slightly farther that you get every time you play it. Or at least on an aggregate basis, you're going to get further. Now, this is not to say that games of this caliber or of this design style necessarily do themselves a favor. But there's something oddly satisfying about playing a game and seeing as you play it, just every little time you get just that little bit further, that little bit more of the mission complete. And I don't necessarily think that it's something that a lot of people will necessarily talk about, but for me, every time I've been playing this, and you've already seen a massive improvement, every time you get to a certain point, you're getting that little bit stronger, that little bit better, that little bit faster. What initially was an insurmountable task becomes amazingly easy because you've done it before. You can do it again. And it's gotten to a point, I think, that this game has actually taught me a little bit about speedrunning in and of itself. Now, reality about speedrunning in video games is it's not my cup of tea, ordinarily. But after playing Dead Charge for a little bit, I can kind of see the appeal. Speedruns are all about precision, getting that little bit better, a little bit faster than the prior time you played it. And so, an aspect that a lot of people tend to talk about being a problem in speedrunning is the fact that you're going to be better at the early portions of a mission than you are the later portions. And this makes sense. If you're playing Mario, like the original Mario, for 15 hours straight, you're going to get really good at the first couple of worlds, and might not be all that great at the last couple, because, comparatively speaking, you play the last few worlds of Mario far less than you do the first ones. This happens to be a 36-40 second micro level, so there's not a whole lot of room for growth, so to speak, as far as the overall game speedrun goes. But at least gives you an idea of what speedrunning looks like. Now, this I unironically think is probably one of the more ridiculous things I've been attempting. But reality dictates that every game has something that it does right. Okay, that was an oopsie. And something that it doesn't. There are some things in games that will never turn out the way you hope. But I would argue that the drive of this developer to develop a game that was precise and high speed, that every single button press had a reason and you weren't constantly fighting with yourself and the controls, makes Dead Charge something to behold. Anywho, that's 2 cents on it at the very least. I think if I were to, I kind of am curious what a sequel would look like. Okay, that's unfortunate. Right, from the top. So, Dead Charge has a couple quirks. Now, I did a little bit of digging. Grand total, this game has 11 missions, 6 main story missions that must be played in whatever order, those being Hydraulic Highway Acts 1 and 2. You have to beat the Neon Nightlife Acts 1 and 2, and Scrap Factory Acts 1 and 2. That's it. That's it for the main story, so to speak. The other 5 missions of the game, being either challenge missions or end game content that are meant to put everything you learn in the first 6 levels to the test. Anywho, with all this in mind, Dead Charge is available on the Nintendo Switch eShop and Steam for a grand total of $2.75. And given that this took me 45 minutes of precise platforming learning, I honestly think you're going to get your money's worth. But that's pretty much all for me today. If you like what you see, I'd love if you left a like, a subscribe, and I hope to hear from you all again. And all the best to each of you.